Welcome to the Nevada Patriot Podcast with Matt Sadler.
Welcome back to the Nevada Patriot Podcast with Matt Sadler. If you're listening on KPFF 97.7 FM, welcome aboard. The station's summer schedule has us on now once a week, Tuesday nights. So every Tuesday at 6 p.m., catch a new episode right here. Or you can stream this episode and every episode on the NevadaPatriot.com, Rumble, and YouTube. Happy belated Father's Day to all you dads out there. I really hope you all had a great Father's Day / Juneteenth holiday weekend. It's still going to take me some time to get used to. Father's Day probably landing on those types of holidays. I myself had a great time with the family, doing a little bit of camping over that, over about 3 or 4 days over the weekend. So that was a blessing. Family really got to celebrate the holiday and some good R&R. And I hope you listeners, especially you dads out there, I hope you did. Big salute to all you dads out there that are doing a good job, that are knocking out that rent, knocking out that mortgage, working hard. Those dads that are not doing that, step up your game, gentlemen. No high five for you. So, in that same vein, today's show is about you, men. I firmly believe that as male leadership goes in a society, so does the quality of that culture or society. Sorry, not being a chauvinist, but I think it's absolutely correct. When you look at our culture right now, let me ask you, is our culture one that is promoting manhood, hard work? Not really. Our culture doesn't really have that kind of value when it comes to what you see in the media, on TV, movies. This has actually been going on for decades. I mean, my wife and I were having a talk about this, and it was brought to our attention before. Remember all the sitcoms, even as early as the 1980s, 90s, how were the male leads or the family leaders, the dads in those shows, whether it's Homer Simpson or, Married with Children, Al Bundy. They were kind of portrayed as just loving doofus goofballs. Same thing, fast forward 90s, early 2000s, Disney Channel shows. The dad is always the goofball, out of touch with reality. The kids are always at the end teaching good old Pops a lesson that he was too stupid or dopey to figure out. So we haven't really been celebrated in culture as being, a great vein of wisdom, hard work, manliness, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not talking just, weightlifting, punch people in the face. Like, that's not what I'm calling men to be. Not to be violent idiots, but to be men. And I think that's okay. So whether you're talking, biblically, masculinity, or you're talking just in a secular manner, it's hard for me to really separate the two, because I don't believe Christianity or your belief system stops when you put down your holy book, when you stop reading your Bible. I think clearly in Christendom, particularly in evangelical Christendom, which is what I'm in, I believe there is not a real separation between the sacred and the secular. So, and pick up that Bible that's maybe collecting dust somewhere on a shelf in your house, read it, see all the different counsel and all the different advice and all the different areas it speaks into. It's actually quite staggering. There's almost no aspect of life that you can't find biblical, practical wisdom in. And keep in mind, when we talk about the Bible, don't consider the Bible to be, a purely Christian thing. The other major religions accept the teachings in the Bible, whether it's the Old Testament or the New Testament, by and large, as a I guess you wouldn't call it necessarily holy or God-inspired to the different religions, but they have a reverence for it for historical accuracy, practical wisdom. So you go to the religion of Islam, for instance, they don't deny the existence of the man Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, in their worldview, was a real person, was a real teacher, was somebody to be respected. Now, obviously not deity to them. Same thing with Judaism. They don't believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ as the God-man, like you would see in Christianity. But nevertheless, the teachings tend to be revered by major religions across the board. So it helps us when we say, when I say, biblical manhood, biblical masculinity, it shouldn't be an exclusive thing like, oh, well, I'm not a Christian, I'm an atheist, or I'm agnostic, I just believe I'm a good person, or I'm a Jehovah's Witness, or whatever it might be. The fact is, these teachings are there, and they're helpful. And cultures that embrace a lot of these teachings can thrive. So what does the Bible say about biblical manhood? Well, you go back to the very, very beginning of it all. The word Genesis actually means the beginning. So look into that very first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis, and you're reading about as God is creating the heavens and the earth, populating the earth with wildlife, greenery, fish, ultimately humans. He creates Adam and Eve in his own image. And what happens? There's a fall. What happens during that fall? A guy wants to blame the girl. The woman you gave me this forbidden fruit to eat. But God understands that Adam, whether he was given this fruit that he was told not to eat, whether he was given it to by a woman or not, it was a failure of leadership on his part. So from the very beginning, you can kind of see the heart of God and the expectation of God that he has for men. So he holds him more responsible for that fall, because it's Adam whose dereliction of duty, of not leading his family, his wife, not leading in subduing the earth and being a good steward of the resources, had an excuse, tried to blame the woman, but God wasn't having it back then. I can't have it right now when it comes to you men. I think that's a real problem in our culture. Sometimes with the more what do you want to call it? Creature comforts, more blessings society has, materially, I mean, we tend to kind of take our foot off the gas with certain responsibilities. We're seeking comfort, the things we see on TV, whether it's a new car, a new trip, a new RV, new side-by-side, joining a bowling league, I don't know, fishing with your buddies, going to sporting events and spending hundreds of dollars on booze and food. Whatever it is that us guys find ourselves kind of lusting after is ultimately what ends up kind of eroding our entire society. Sometimes I look around and I think, where are all the men at? And there was a popular preacher many years back said that, if a man-eating lion were to be let loose in the streets of the town or in the actual church area where all the males were, he would starve to death because there's no men, right? So that's an old joke, and it's really not far from the truth, because the Bible is pretty explicit. So not only just in that original story, but you can see it in different parts of the Bible. Like you could look into 2 Thessalonians. You've heard that term out there. If you don't work, you don't eat. That's really true. That's in the Bible in 2 Thessalonians. When you actually go look for that verse more specifically, if a man will not work, he shall not eat. That is true, right? So often we see our culture tends to pride itself on getting something for nothing, or, hey, I just invested in this stock, and you need to do like me and just get in early on this new form of cryptocurrency, and then within 5 years you could retire and not ever work. And here's the problem, guys out there, guys that are listening. I don't think the design of you men is one that you should be worried about retiring when you're an able-bodied, sound mind, physically sound. We're kind of created to work, and I see it in my industry a lot. In bail bonds, when you're helping people out, it's not often so much that having money alone. Money's a tool, right? I firmly believe that it's a tool. It's not an end in and of itself. Usually it's a means to an end. And sadly, the more of it you have and the more different things you think are going to buy and make you happy, the more you're kind of disappointed, and then you're off to the next thing. I mean, we all have friends and family that are always searching for that next euphoria they get from the next vehicle they buy, or from the next house that they purchase, or if I can only get this condo and in downtown, I'll be set. Or if I can finally afford that cabin or that new RV, or just whatever the next step up is, you're always going to be left short. And back to what I'm saying about the industry that I'm in, when I'm talking to people that might be getting into trouble, and you come to find out, they're on SSI, or they're on some type of assistance. And I'm not berating that. I think sometimes if you need a hand up, especially if you've worked and you get injured on the job or something, you deserve to have certain needs met. You deserve to recuperate some of that, because you're oftentimes you're paying into it, or it's part of your employment package. If you get hurt on the job, you have a risky job, you should be compensated when you get hurt on the job. But some of the folks that I've dealt with, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I'll put it plainly. There's been guys out there that are making a lot of money on certain types of programs, or whether it's disability or whatever it is, that are a lot more able-bodied than I am. I mean, I'm talking to them sometimes, and they're saying, I've got a roofing job off the books here, next weekend, and can I pay you what I owe you after that? And I'm thinking, gosh, you're on some form of disability. How are you on a roof? That's when, I think sometimes people can take advantage. And for the guys out there, and we saw it during COVID, or anytime there's massive, layoffs and more of an emphasis on unemployment benefits, it was hard. I remember years ago trying to hire a few people in for entry level positions in a bail bonds office back in probably 2010-ish area. We were coming out of that recession, from 2008, the big recession where lots of folks lost their houses. I remember it was just turmoil going on. But sometimes getting those folks to want to go back and work when they were easily continuing their unemployment benefits, I honestly had people tell me, well, I can't take your job for $12 an hour because basically I'm getting almost $10 an hour to sit on my butt and play video games and just do a couple side jobs. I'll be making more money. I would have to make at least, 15 an hour plus commission to work in your office. And it's like, here we are competing with our own flawed government benefit system to get people to work. But these people not realizing that by not being productive, by not punching the clock, by not working or doing stuff with your hands or engaging your mind or providing some type of service or good out there, that they're unfulfilled, that it's actually contributing more to their mental, mental well-being not being good. It's contributing to their depression, their feelings of inadequacy, their inclination to abuse substances or drink alcohol more. It's like a vicious circle, and sometimes rather than giving that, hand up, so to speak, it's that handout. It's that exploitative draw where people think that they want to get something for nothing. But I'm a firm believer that the more active you are, the more productive you are, the more you're creating or building or providing. That's what us guys are meant to do. The more satisfied you will be. So a lot of this, even though it's kind of like I'm trying to shake people into action here, it's almost like I'm trying to just point out what I think is what is for your own good. Now I know we really need to step it up, guys. I am pointing at you, but I've got 4 other fingers pointing back at me. So I need to listen to this as much as I need to preach it. So don't think I've reached some attained, because I know the inclinations of my heart. I know my drift toward, I won't really call it laziness, but I call it like excessive relaxation time. Like, hurry up, get a lot of work done super fast. I want to do 5 hours of work in 2 hours so I could use that extra 3 hours to rest or to zone out or watch videos or sit on a recliner or whatever it is I want to do. So I know I need to hear this as much as anyone listening out here right now, because I know how I can drift. So, but at the same time, I don't want to let you off the hook, because I think there's a certain amount of onus. You just have to man up. You have to man up. And another scripture verse that really, can catch your attention is in Ephesians chapter 6. The Apostle Paul is calling out and saying, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church." Now, in and of itself, that line doesn't. But when you think about what did Christ do, how did he show his love for the church? Nothing. You look up the term sacrificial love in every sense of that word, and every application of the definition of that word. That's what he embodied. That's how he lived. So not just dying for the church, which he did, but just sacrificing, being patient, long-suffering, tired. If you read the Gospel of Mark, just look at that. It's an action gospel talking about all the stuff that Jesus did in his ministry. From going town to town, to preaching, to staying up late, to having people knocking at his door at all hours, and an incessant amount of people getting their needs met by this man with very little room to even rest. And the stress levels the night before he's betrayed, he's actually sweating and crying tears of blood coming out of his sweat glands through his eyes. It's that's actually documented. That happens in extreme levels of stress. Now it's been documented. It's a very rare thing to happen. Your levels of stress have to just be through the roof. But this is just the ways that he viewed his church. And when you talk about how he loved the church, that's all those who were his followers, would be his future followers. You're talking about me in the future here, thousands of years later in Pahrump, Nevada. He's talking about Matt Sadler. I'm part of his church. So this is the ways that he loved his church, that he, in essence, loves me, loves my family, loves any other believer, that these are the things that he went through. And if we're tasked to not strive to maybe one day love your wives as Christ loved the church, it's a command in the Bible that husbands are to love your wives as Christ loved the church. Like, it's not an option. It's not really a lofty goal. It's a biblical and God-centered mandate. We're tasked for it. We're called to do it. We're commanded to do it. So how did we get here as a culture to where years ago, we're talking, decades before a lot of the policies that were enacted, around after the Great Depression, got really kicked into high gear in the 60s under Lyndon B. Johnson, the Great Society. But so prior to all that, like what were some of the dynamics in family life? Well, I was reading an article on the Institute for Family Studies. This one was dated in October of 2019. Before 1960, just to put into perspective, only 9% of children were raised without a father. I mean, fast forward, just barely years after that, and you're looking at just in the span from then until now, so we'll call it a bigger span of 60 some odd years, that the latest stats show that 40% are now of all human beings are born outside of marriage. And 35% of children, this is across the board, this isn't one segment of one people group or any ethnic group or any, regardless of economics or anything, 35% of children live with only one parent. The vast majority of those people, it's the one female parent, the mom, right? That they're living with their mom and not really engaged with their dads at all. And so after 1964, the programs from the Great Society of Lyndon B. Johnson's, masterpiece, that's when they really started kicking in. So to put it into perspective, there was a time, this article goes on to talk about in 1975, where single parents, and this is obviously talking about single women, so single moms, $20,000 in resources per year that they attained by maintaining that I won't say quality of life, but that status of life, a single female parent, single mom. That would take, just to put it into perspective, it would take a breadwinner or breadwinners in a home to make about $90,000 per year in today's dollars. So imagine now, and actually since this article is 2019, before this super hyperinflation seemingly kicked in, it's more probably like $95,000. I mean, everything's gotten more expensive in the last 4 years since this article was written. But even in 2019, that would have been the equivalent of $90,000 a year in 2019 was about what you would get in the government assistance in 1975. And I believe it. I mean, I asked my parents when I was younger, like what our house cost brand new. And I think in the 70s, they purchased our house for like $23,000 for a nice, good size 3-bedroom home in what was at the time a very good neighborhood. So, that's no joke when your assistance is added up to about $20,000 a year. Now you can imagine how difficult that is to walk away from. So going back to that analogy about the kid that I was trying to hire that was making, you're talking $10 an hour or whatever the equivalent was of government assistance, and he wasn't wanting to walk away from that. Imagine if I told the same guy, "Oh, you make $90,000 a year on government assistance. Come work in my bail bonds office for $10 or $12 an hour plus commission." He'd be like, "Yeah, right, whatever, but buddy, I'm not giving this up." So you can imagine that through that period of time, that these Democrat welfare policies incentivized fatherless homes, and they continued to do that for years and years and years. And even if you've lived under a rock for the past few decades, you can still see how the media, the entertainment world, and our culture devalues manhood. So imagine these forces coming together where the position of a male head of house or the man of the house is being pushed down and being relegated to obscurity by the culture. And then you mix that with the hard dollars and cents of, hey, if this guy doesn't live here, if I can give birth to a child outside of wedlock and not allow the man, the father of the baby, to live in my home, I'm, hitting the jackpot, so to speak. But I mean, you see what the cumulative effect of that over the last several decades has done. You see now, the rate, I don't have the exact article in front of me, but anybody can do a rudimentary search through Google or DuckDuckGo and just find out that the rate of marriage between, and the sustaining of the marriage between black women and black men married together versus, the other ethnicities, like the, white women, white men, or just other ethnicities in our culture, in our country. They had the highest level of staying togetherness, if you call that, of keeping their marriage intact, of not getting divorces. And everything in the past decades, it seemingly has inverted and flipped itself on its head. And really the only factor that contributed, that sped up that process, it has to be these welfare programs that were really initiated in the 60s and 70s. And it's really done a disservice, I believe, to everyone. And I'm not going to single out one group over another and say that they're doing worse than this group. Everybody makes decisions based upon what they believe to be the best for their family. I'm not saying that anybody that takes welfare is super selfish and everybody that doesn't is super righteous. That's not what it is. Life is a series of risk reward, good decisions and bad decisions, and finding out your way on how going down one road benefits you and your family over another road. So I can't cast stones and say that these were bad ideas. No one was deliberately trying to damage their culture, their family, the society by taking and utilizing these benefits. Where the blame goes is the people that should know better. It's the bureaucrats. It's the political ruling class. It's the media giants. It's all the people that stood to benefit tremendously and exploit these policies for their own gain. Now you can say that's for the Democrat Party. I always call them, they'll call the Republican Party the party of millionaires. Well, I call the Democrat Party the party of billionaires. And how do they maintain their status, their power, their stranglehold, their economic advantages? It's by, I don't want to use the word enslaving people because that has bad connotations, but it's how they coerce dependence on the government from people. And certain people groups, historically, I think have been more preyed upon with these policies, and you can't really deny it with the numbers, because these policies, although everybody has a time when they need just a hand up, just to get through and to get on their feet, and I don't think that big government wants people to get back on their feet. They want them to stay just pacified enough to not be violent and cause melees in the street, but they want to keep them dependent and subservient, and they want to ensure that they receive their votes, their support every election cycle. And this is one way to enshrine it's definitely worked, because honestly, the ideology and the platform of, say, the Republican Party, vastly superior to that of the Democrat Party. I mean, we govern ourselves, no matter where you're from, no matter what the color of your skin is, no matter how much money you have in your bank account. You make better decisions for you and your family than these moron bureaucrats, than these moron politicians, these fickle, weaselly elected officials that are making all these decisions for you and your family. And the vast majority of these bureaucrats, politicians, buy into this Democrat platform, hook, line, and sinker. And what it is, it's just keeping you happy to have the scraps off the king's table. Like, oh, we're just so happy we're just getting something. That's how it's going to be. And one day, maybe not too far in the future, actually, we're all going to be just coerced to be in that same boat, where you're either going to be in that group of the haves, the fat cats, the rich people, the powerful people, the Bill Gates type people. We're going to be in that group, or it's going to be everybody else. There won't be a middle class. There won't be a lower middle class. There won't be an upper middle class. There won't be a working class. It's going to be just the dependent class is what we'll call it. That's where we're all going to be until we realize that, look, we're given this country, and Ronald Reagan said it, that we're one generation away from just losing it all. And sure enough, it just seems like that's about how long it's taken, and we're losing a grip on the magic, on the beauty, the possibilities, the American dream. You know, we're losing our hold on that. I mean, look no further. There's the example of manhood being under attack in this culture war that we're experiencing. It should be really obvious. Like when we're actually having cultural dialogue back and forth and arguing, what is a woman? What is a man? Is it fluid? Can you be both? Can you be neither? Can you not identify her? Can you change? It's almost like we're just purposefully being confused by these puppet masters somewhere that are just pulling the strings. And you can call it an unholy alliance between the technology oligarchs, between the government, between Hollywood, the sports world. Have you noticed the weirdness about the sports world? America's the bad guy, China's the good guy, according to all these sports teams that are just in sports leagues that are just trying to break in to the China or Asian market. When they're the ones, like in the country of China, traditionally, that has just been human rights violators over the years, but no, you can't say anything bad about them. Then you got John Cena crying and delivering apology speeches publicly in Chinese. Like how pathetic are we to not really see that all these where we look to for answers, it's the wrong area. We got to stop looking at what Bill Gates thinks. Stop even listening to what Donald Trump says, or any politician really. Just look at common sense. Look at yourself, like men out there. I mean, really, who's gonna really take care of your family when the rubber hits the road? When there's hard times, maybe we get the electric grid knocked out for 4 or 5 days, where we're trying to find clean water. You never know. Like, is Trump going to come in and individually save each and every one of your families? Or is it going to be on you as the man of the house, or on you as the oldest son in the house, and your mom is a widow, or whatever your situation is? It's going to be on you. And I think that's okay. We're built to withstand certain things. We're built for it. And we just got to act it out. We have to just live it. So yeah, those are my 2 cents. So we're going to probably cut it a little bit short. And I know many of you are saying thankfully. Real quick before we head out, this show today was sponsored by, dun 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 dun, surprise, A-Hope Bell Bonds, your friendly local neighborhood bell bondsman. Available 24 hours by appointment, 775-442-2245. Ask for yours truly, Matt Sadler, when you call. I am actually your local friendly bail agent. So I'm available 24/7 here in Pahrump, Nye County. If you have a friend, loved one, husband, wife, neighbor, coworker locked up and you just need some good advice, call as well. I'm always available to do that. It's not a problem. 775-442-2245. So we're about to close out today's segment. Again, you can catch all our podcasts, all of our recordings on Rumble, YouTube, or the NevadaPatriot.com. If you want to catch our show, you got to do it live every Tuesday on the radio. That is 97.7 FM KPFF, where the First Amendment lives. Every night, 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, you're going to catch one of the talk shows. So make sure, especially, you tune in on Tuesdays. So hopefully you guys out there don't hate me and you'll tune back and listen. Sometimes we just got to hear things in a hard way. But trust me, I'm saying this stuff out of love. I want my community to be better. I want the men out here and in our state, especially in our country, to step up and act like men and work hard. I was just talking to a friend today, and I was asking him if have you ever really known anyone who's really busted their hump, really worked hard, was diligent, got up to the task, wasn't lazy or slothful, and was really worried about bills? It just seems like things work out well for you men when you work hard. And very rarely are your money problems going to be income related. They're almost always going to be spending related. So live within your means, save your money, work hard, prepare for the unexpected. And until next week, all you Nevada Patriots, God bless you.
You've just spent some of the best minutes of your life hanging out with Matt Sadler at the Nevada Patriot Podcast. Thank you for listening. Tell a friend and join us next time. After you catch your breath, check out the NevadaPatriot.com for more content, advertising opportunities, and to give listener feedback. That website again is the NevadaPatriot.com. Until next time, Patriots, stay American.